You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello there, Vicky. I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you doing? Excellent, excellent. Yeah, the fight continues. I think a big thing I'm looking at is that there's a lot of money being wasted within the prison system. Good, good. Well, what you need to do is let the public know what you're experiencing. Right. The more news we get out there and the more coverage we get, I think we'll have a better chance. Right. Right. I like that. Good. You need to let your family know, let your friends know. Definitely file complaints. Anything and everything that will help. Exactly. Okay. Okay. I will. I will definitely put a word in for you on that part. So if you get anything new and you want to broadcast it, just let me know. Yeah, and that's a big thing too. So if your friends are really having some problems with that, let me know. I know people are getting tax returns and they're just destroying it. They're taking all that stuff away from them, and some of them are not getting their tax returns at all. They're just being confiscated. Yeah, and we need to keep an eye on that. That's definitely something that can cause a lot of problems for both sides. I guess the people on the outside and the people that are locked up. Because for one thing, you guys are making $1 an hour, and the prices in there aren't low. A lot of times you'll pay for an item that costs more within the prison system than it does out here. And you're going to need some support from the outside. And them taking money from you from your tax return, or if somebody sends you money, or if you get a judgment or something in your favor, that's what kind of message are they trying to send? And with the budget being very tight in the state of Washington, I could see how they try to get money any way they can. But what happens is you guys are in there for rehabilitation. You're trying to get your life back in order, get back out, uh, take advantage of the resources that's available to you. And this is not helping. Okay. Okay. And once again, file complaints. I will send you addresses and telephone numbers if you need them, but you need to get the word out there. As long as nobody's saying anything, they're going to keep doing this. And I will stress that for as long as I can. They're just, it's like the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. And right now, this is a good opportunity to get it on the national front. Oh no, don't think that your story's not important. Yeah, I well, when you look at it like that,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
there are people in the prison that tend to get a little more exposure than others, and usually it's an assault or a medical situation, or maybe even a death or a suicide. But that doesn't mean that the things about like them throwing away food in the cafeteria or taking income tax returns, that's still important.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And it's just like retail. You don't know what sells until you get it out there on the market. You can do all your tests and you can do your projections, but the truth comes once it's out there. And the same thing with your story. Once it's out there, that's what we'll know it's important. Good. Yeah. And get that to me as soon as you can. Well, thanks for the call and take care of yourself. Oh, yeah. You too. Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello. Welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And during that phone conversation, I was discussing how a lot of money is being taken from people who are in prison who really don't have a lot to spare. They're struggling to make ends meet. Let's put it that way. Some require a little bit more money for their daily activities than others. Not everybody in prison works, and not everybody in prison can get their full paycheck. And one of the things that prompted me to talk about this was the stuff that I've been hearing from others, but a personal encounter I had with my fiance. We were having an email conversation, and she was saying, after I get off of work, I'd like to ask you a question, but I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. So I send a response, you can talk about anything. I'd rather you get it out than to hold it in and put a strain on our relationship. And the question she wanted to ask me was she needed some money. She wanted to call her brother, which she loves talking to him, and she needed some personal items, things that you would think would be available to her on a regular basis, but it's not. There's a lot of stuff that we take for granted when we hear about prisons that the people get. We expect them to get food, clothing, shelter, and toiletries. But sometimes something happens, and I guess with women, there's times that their toiletries run out a little earlier than they expected. And so for me, it didn't make me feel uncomfortable at all because I know the situation in there. But she didn't want me getting the impression that she was just in a relationship with me to get money. I mean, yeah, it happens a lot. And there's a lot of guys out there that fall victim to that. And some of them really don't care. They're maybe retired or they make good money. And if somebody says, I could use some new shoes, they feel comfortable giving that to them. And that's them. And for me, with my fiance, if she needs something, why should I say no? Or why should I assume that she's using me? But she felt very uncomfortable asking for that. And it's tough for me to get money to her because the Department of Corrections feels that I'm a danger for some strange reason. And they are restricting my communication with my fiance. They won't let me marry her, which is illegal. And they won't let me communicate with her, which is illegal. So they're just giving me fuel to start the fire in this lawsuit. And this is one of the things I have to run across. So why do I have to go through all this trouble just to help somebody that they deliberately push down? She makes $1 an hour. She has fees that she has to pay. She has certain things that she has to pay for her day-to-day living. And they're not really helping her. Everybody who's locked up in there needs somebody on the outside. Hopefully a spouse or a sibling, maybe even a extended family or friends. It's just comforting to know that there's somebody out there who could speak for them in case something happens. And being an advocate who's being restricted from communicating with people It shows that I'm doing my job, and I feel comfortable doing that. And to have them break the law and violate their own policy just to restrict me, that's kind of scary because they're overstepping their boundaries. But what else are they going to do? I'm not doing anything wrong. There's no reason to restrict me. So they have to come up with something. And in order to do that, they're, they have to bend the law. And the one who suffers is my fiance. I would send her what I call it an allowance. I'd send her money each week. And that was money that she could use to download music on her player or download a movie or to get maybe some snacks. Maybe she wants some a box of crackers or she wants some soup or spices. And I know she was there's women in there that ask for items that they could bake or not really bake, but prepare food in their room. And I don't see why the prison system would restrict them from making calls or getting emails or sending out emails because if you want a person to be comfortable, you don't want to put restrictions on them. And I, after talking with or actually after that conversation, I thought this should be my next podcast because we don't see the problems we're causing that can be prevented. I know after you see a crime and you want to learn the motive and you get into detail of it, it's people tend to think, well, what could we do to prevent it? Well, one of them is offer the resources. If a man gets so deep in debt and he feels that he has to kill his wife to get the insurance, what happened? Why is it that an innocent person has to die to help clear this person of finances that he got himself into? Maybe having information and resources that are rarely available can help this person. There's no guarantee that a person isn't going to commit crime if everything is right there with them. You have people who are multimillionaires who commit crimes and commit violent crimes like murder. And when you look back on the crime, you think, everything was there to help prevent it, but the mentality was just snapped or something. And there's across the country, there's drug rehab facilities that's being closed down and mental wellness facilities. And it breaks my heart because these are the things that can prevent crime. But when they do the budget cuts, are they shutting down prisons? I and I just can't see that. I can't see how the resources that prevent crime are being put on the chopping block, but we're continuing to send people to prison. Those people who get together and when let's say a county wants to build a new prison or a jail and the people vote against it, that warms my heart. That is fantastic news. And anybody who has to cut back on their budget, with the new tariffs that come out there, people are saying you have to be careful about how you spend your money. And with the stock market crashing, people's 401k is taking a hit. Well, if you're spending money going out to dinner every day, when you could be spending less by preparing it at home and spending more time with your family, that seems to be a better alternative than to cut back on food or medicine just so you can continue to go out and spend all this money. And that's what you would do personally. Well, think about the United States government or the state government. If we as the taxpayers decide we're not going to give you all this money to do these things because you're wasting it, the government would find a way to cut back. I know the newly elected governor of Washington, he's trying to save his resources and spend less, and that's commendable. But what he's cutting, I mean, he's not cutting into the penal system. Why not shut down some of these prisons? The crime is dropping, and it's not because we're locking more people up. It's because people are going to these resources that are on the chopping block and getting assistance. A person who gets a high gambling debt and decides to get insurance to pay it off, we need to work on preventing them from getting caught up in the gambling craze. But instead, these gambling is on the rise because people have easy access to it, and folks are getting caught up in these online stuff, or it's convenient for them to go to the casinos, and nobody's really helping them. Even a lot of the casinos out there will say, uh, before you get too deeply involved in this gambling, seek assistance. But if the assistance is being cut, it's not going to help anybody. And I think casinos should pay a little bit into a fund to help prevent gambling. I think employers should put a little bit into a fund for mental health. And a lot of these social media companies like Facebook and TikTok, X, there's people that's getting really involved into the social media. Why not get them to put something aside to help out children that get caught up in there or families that are trying to figure out ways to prevent stalkers or something? We're just so used to the old fashioned method of fixing things. You find the criminal, you lock them up. That's not what's preventing crime. It's the resources that we're putting on the chopping block. Right now, we have a national focus on people being deported. Now, the federal government says these people are in the United States illegally. They're getting involved in gangs and illegal activity. They need to be immediately taken out because they shouldn't be here in the first place. The other side says they need to go through due process. They're not necessarily guilty. We don't know that till we take them to court. Well, we've got people sitting in prison that need that kind of assistance. And we have people that are out on the streets that need that kind of assistance. They need to be properly taken to trial and properly defended. And they don't need to be locked up. They need in a lot of cases an alternative method of punishment. I think a single mother who's struggling to keep her family fed or is involved in an addiction, I don't think she just needs to be thrown into a prison. My fiance, she went to prison very young, and she's been in prison pretty much most of her life. And she's trying. She's a good worker. She puts in a lot of effort. She's actually gets wounded a lot because she's just overexerting herself at the job. And so if she wants to buy a bottle of pain pills, she shouldn't have to give that up. And they shouldn't be poking at her and prodding at her and forcing her to do things that she would not do out here in the real world. And I've got to emphasize that. I've got to tell you folks and anybody else out there, especially with this lawsuit that's coming up, that this is a major issue going on in our penal system. And the governor of Washington, he he wants everybody to cut their budget, but he had the penal system exempt. The Department of Corrections doesn't have to worry about that. So they continue to waste food. They continue to take money from the incarcerated people. There's those that money is taken out by accident, and when they go in to fight it, prove that you shouldn't have taken this money, it's either taking a long time to get it returned to their